Today we're going to dive into the incredible story of a people who lost pretty much every battle for land they ever fought, but somehow they won the war for immortality. This is the story of the Celts.
Woe to the vanquished! Just imagine hearing those words. It's what a Celtic chieftain supposedly said after sacking Rome and demanding a massive ransom in gold. I mean, that's one heck of a way to make an entrance onto the world stage, right? It's a moment that forever branded the Celts as these terrifying, unstoppable conquerors.
So let's set the scene. It's 390 BC. The city of Rome, the so-called eternal city, the center of the universe, is burning, and it's fallen to these warriors from the north, these guys the Romans called Gauls. To Rome, they were just a destructive, savage force. But was that really the whole story? Were these people just savages? Well, the answer to that question is going to completely flip the script on how you see ancient Europe. Okay, so let's get into it. Because what was hiding behind that Roman stereotype was a civilization of unbelievable sophistication. So, the Roman propaganda machine was working overtime. They painted this picture of a primitive people, totally driven by rage and just a thirst for destruction. An uncivilized horde, basically. But here's the thing. While Rome was busy calling them primitive warriors, the actual evidence we have tells a completely different story. These so-called barbarians were creating things that, frankly, were beyond anything the Romans were doing at the time.
Just look at what they were actually doing. The Celts were master artists, crafting these stunning golden necklaces called torques, with these hypnotic, swirling designs. And that's not just pretty art, that's a whole philosophy baked into the metal, this idea of the endless cycle of life and death. They developed calendars that were, get this, more accurate than the Roman one. And their surgeons? They were performing incredibly complex operations. I mean, come on, that is not the work of savages.
And at the absolute center of their society were the Druids. And believe me, the Romans were more afraid of them than any warrior. To become a Druid, you had to study for up to 20 years. 20 years! Memorizing all the laws, the poems, the star charts, the entire history of your people. These were, without a doubt, the intellectual elite of the ancient world.
And all of this sophistication really brings us to the core conflict between these two worlds. You see, it wasn't just armies clashing. It was a clash between two totally different ways of seeing the universe.
Think about it like this. Rome built an empire you could touch. An empire of straight roads, stone buildings, written laws. Their power was all about order, control, things you could write down and lock away in a library. But the Celtic world, it was built on the intangible, on whispering forests and misty hills. Their power came from flexibility, from nature, and from memory.
And that's why the Druids were so incredibly powerful. They were living libraries. You could burn down the Library of Alexandria, and poof, centuries of knowledge gone. But how do you destroy knowledge that lives in someone's head? How do you burn a memory? You just can't.
Now, Julius Caesar, he was a brilliant guy, and he got this. He understood it completely. When he set out to conquer Gaul, he knew that just beating their armies on the battlefield wasn't going to be enough. Nope. To truly conquer the Celts, he had to cut out their heart, destroy their culture at its source. And that's exactly why he made it his mission to wipe out the Druids.
But you know what? Even Caesar couldn't kill an idea. Centuries later, long after the Roman Empire itself was a pile of rubble, the Celtic world was facing a brand new threat. And it was then that the Druidic tradition would unleash its final and most powerful weapon.
Okay, picture this. It's 410 AD. The Roman legions have packed up and left Britain. The whole island just collapses into chaos. And then, new invaders, the Anglo-Saxons, show up, pushing the native Celts to the absolute brink of extinction. It looks like it's all over. And then, a story emerges, a legend of a great king who will rise and unite his people.
And that, of course, brings us to the question that people have been obsessed with for centuries. Who was the real King Arthur? We look for his castle, we search for his sword, for his grave, but what if we've been looking for the wrong thing all along?
The real King Arthur wasn't a man of flesh and blood. He was something so much more powerful. Arthur was a cultural weapon. He was a myth, forged by the last of the Druids as a tool for survival. He was an idea, a composite of every great Celtic hero and Roman general, all rolled into one, designed to give a conquered people a symbol of who they once were and a reason to hope for the future.
And this is why it's so important. The legend of King Arthur is the ultimate proof of the Celtic worldview. It shows that a story, if you tell it at just the right time, in just the right way, is more powerful, more enduring than any army or any empire.
And that brings us to their ultimate victory. You see, they might have lost the physical land, but they built something else, something that would last far, far longer.
Think about what Rome left behind. We've got its ruins, right? Aqueducts, roads, laws, a legacy you can physically touch. The Celts lost that physical battle, but what did they leave us? They gave us myths, music, language. They left us ideas, an invisible empire that doesn't live in stone, but in our minds.
And that empire is absolutely everywhere today. The entire genre of modern fantasy, from Tolkien to, well, everything, is built on a Celtic foundation. Those haunting melodies you hear in Irish and Scottish music, that's a direct echo from their world. Their languages are still spoken today. Their legacy is this amazing empire of ideas, spreading from one mind to another, kind of like the internet, but ancient.
So in the end, their empire of the mind actually outlasted Rome's empire of stone. Their stories proved to be tougher than roads, more lasting than iron. They literally found a way to become immortal.
So the next time you lose yourself in a great fantasy novel or you hear one of those haunting Celtic melodies, just remember, you're not just enjoying a good story. You're hearing an echo from a civilization that figured out how to conquer death itself. Which kind of makes you wonder, right? What other echoes of this invisible empire do you see all around you in the world today?